Welcome. This is the first of a series of short presentations about using Excel to solve some interesting data problems. All these examples will be using Excel to do things that I think of as more than the normal run-of-the-mill calculations. In each case, I've created a spreadsheet that combines the techniques to provide a practical solution to a real situation. The Excel files are all available for download, so you can test them out and see what I've done and check the way the whole thing works. This first example is running an election. In this case, we have a small organisation with a list of named members who are electing directors. In this particular case, we have 4 candidates, but there are only 3 available positions. There's going to be a meeting where the final vote is held. Every member gets to vote, and the whole voting history has to be kept in case it needs to be checked later. Members are allowed to vote by email before the meeting. At the meeting, members who are physically present will be able to fill out voting slips, and members who attend the meeting online will be able to call in their selection. A voting administrator is going to use Excel to manage the whole process. Obviously, we need to keep a record that lists all the members and who they voted for. The administrator keeps this sheet updated, but only shares it when absolutely necessary. The worksheet needs to keep track of who have voted by email, who has voted with a physical slip, and who has voted online, and finally, who was absent. The administrator enters email votes straight into the worksheet as they arrive. During the meeting, members vote on physical voting slips, so there has to be a worksheet that holds the voting slips that are going to be printed. Members fill them in, and the administrator enters them into the voting record. Once all the members who are present have voted, the spreadsheet has to randomly select a member who has not yet voted, and if they are online, record their vote, or note the fact that they're absent. Finally, once all the members are accounted for, the spreadsheet has to present the results to the meeting. The voting record uses simple conditional formatting to highlight some obvious mistakes the administrator could make when entering data. Now let's have a look at the voting slips. These need a unique identifying number on each printed slip, so the administrator can tell who filled them in. Again, this is fairly simple. There's a formula to generate a random 3-digit number, which is recalculated via the F9 key before each print. The worksheet to handle the virtual voting is a little bit more complicated. It incorporates a number of active controls. At the top, we have the name of the next member who has not yet voted. The administrator can then use the active controls to fill in the options that the member indicates, and then press Save to note their preferences into the record. Let's start with how the worksheet knows who is to vote next. This is calculated by 5 columns on the right of the voting record. These are set to 0 width, so the user doesn't normally see them. They calculate if that member has been counted yet. And in the third column, there are a list of random numbers that shuffle the order that members are called upon. The odd column then has either the random number, if the member has not yet been counted, or 0 if they have. The final column uses the large function to select the member who is to vote next. Back on the virtual voting sheet, all the key calculations are performed in 2 columns that again are normally hidden by having their width set to 0. The scratch column holds the calculated values, the val column holds the values we will actually use. So, for example, the second row determines which member has a true value in the next column of the previous worksheet. The visual controls set the values in the strat column directly, and these are interpreted so the val column has the values that will actually be used. The val column makes it easy to define conditional formatting to flag illegal voting combinations. Once the flags are set, a save button is used to run a VBA script that transfers these values into the voting record. I'm not going to go into details of the VBA script. You can see the details in the Excel file. And the code is, like all VBA, really quite bad. As each member's vote is registered, the virtual sheet moves on to the next one. This carries on until every member is accounted for. So, once all the members have been dealt with, we need to determine the results. Back in the voting record, we need to calculate which combination of candidates was selected by the members. Remember that only 3 positions are available, so even if a candidate gets voted for, they might fail because the other 3 candidates beat them. These formulae at the base of the voting record perform that calculation. This takes us to the results worksheet. During the whole process, only the administrator gets to see the voting record. The rest of the members only get shown the final results. This worksheet applies the various rules about how many members must be present for the meeting to be quorate, the threshold for selection, and so on. The worksheet uses the calculations at the base of the voting record to display which candidates have been successful. And that's it. I hope you found this an interesting presentation and maybe saw something that you can use in your own spreadsheets.